We would like to welcome the press here this morning and all those who are present. At the start of our press, we would like to inform the public of our uncompromising guidelines. We believe all people should be respected, regardless of their sexuality. We understand that to support traditional marriage does not equal bigotry, hate speech, or fear, as we do not and will not participate in nor tolerate any form of derogatory speech from either side. And now Dr. Darling will share with you who is preserved marriage and why we exist.
Preserved Marriage Bermuda was created by a group of concerned citizens in Bermuda consisting of those of faith and non-faith, and is now a movement representing an active task force of over 400 diverse volunteers to preserve marriage and family in Bermuda. We exist to provide knowledge, direction, and action to over the 8,000 residents of Bermuda that have signed the petition for marriage to remain defined and upheld as a special union ordained by God between a man and a woman. We firmly believe this union celebrates the necessary natural differences between a male and a female to procreate, fosters moral integrity, strengthens the family unit, and therefore our society. And for these reasons, we are opposed to same-sex marriage in Bermuda. Hence, our twofold position is for marriage to remain between a man and a woman for the betterment of society, and a few should not decide for the many to redefine marriage in Bermuda. Representatives of Preserved Marriage welcomes dialogue with the LGBT community and the supporters of same-sex marriage in a respectful manner. Firefighter Caleb Zool will now share about what is marriage and why it matters.
So what is marriage and why does it matter? Marriage is defined as the lifelong union of a man and woman as husband and wife. Marriage brings a man and woman together as husband and wife to be father and mother to any children their union may produce. It matters because marriage is the foundation for all human civilization. It is a unique relationship because it has a public purpose. Social science has clearly shown for decades that children do much better when raised by a married mother and father. Dr. Melvin Bassett, former educator of Bermuda, will now share about why marriage matters to government.
Marriage matters to government because some of government's greatest burdens are antisocial behaviors that are statistically traced back to the family unit, where one or more of the biological parents is not involved in the child's adolescent life. As a former educator, I know firsthand what can happen when both parents are not involved in a child's life. Many of the social problems that we experience in the country are directly related to family challenges. When fathers are taken from their rightful place, marriage does not ensure the well-being of children. How can we enforce in our society that fathers are essential if our laws redefine marriage to make fathers optional? Both mothers and fathers bring separate, unique, and irreplaceable parenting gifts to the lives of our children. We will now share our 3 objectives, which has been placed in every newspaper this morning, the Royal Gazette. We strongly encourage the public to read the snapshot of Preserved Marriage, which clearly explains who we are and why we exist. Mr. Ray Medeiros will share about our three objectives at this time.
Our three objectives are as follows. Number one, we exist to inform the public about civil unions. The public deserves to know the truth about civil unions. In the debate between traditional marriage versus same-sex marriage, a compromise introduced by some governments is the implementation of a civil union. However, the public must be fully informed that in almost every country which has redefined marriage, civil unions were first introduced as the answer to this alleged discrimination. The public and our government was led to believe that this would be the end of the matter. However, it inevitably leads to a legal fight of the separate but unequal argument which results in the redefinition of marriage. In light of the statistics, governments that introduce civil unions, by default, start the countdown to same-sex marriage. However, internationally, all countries which have legalized same-sex marriage, in all but one case, proceeded by introducing civil unions. More and more countries are moving away from the failed experiment of civil unions. Due to the fact that preserved marriage supports traditional marriage, and due to the documented fact that civil unions eventually lead to same-sex marriage in 6 years from the year 2000, by default, we cannot support civil unions. It is important to note that only a minority of 21 of the 193 countries have redefined marriage. This includes no countries in the rest of Africa other than South Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, and the Middle East, nor the Far East. If a government understands the importance of its role in marriage and its significance to the betterment of society, civil unions would be an obvious contradiction to this objective. Mr. Jock Stewart will share about Objective 2.
Objective number 2. We exist to ensure legislation related to marriage in Bermuda is fortified. We seek to ensure that the Marriage Act 1944, the Interpretation Act 1951, the Matrimonial Clauses Act 1976, and the Human Rights Act 1981 are fortified to preserve marriage in Bermuda to remain between a man and a woman for the benefit of our children and society, because a father and a mother are irreplaceable. Studies demonstrate that children tend to be best protected, nurtured, and fare best when raised by their biological parents in a low-conflict marriage. Government is involved in the personal promise of a male and female married couple because it is of public benefit to society as a whole. Fortifying traditional marriage must consist of the following amendments to existing legislation. Supremacy clauses inserted into the following legislation to ensure that the definition of marriage between a man and a woman is not discriminatory under the Human Rights Act 1981 or any other legislation in Bermuda. In the Marriage Act 1944, the Interpretation Act, the Matrimonial Clauses Act 1976, and the Human Rights Act 1981. We'll now hear from Pastor Gary.
We'll now share with you the third objective that we have, and that is we exist to ensure that a few do not decide for the many. The government should first and foremost uphold the ideal for the benefit of society. Hence, we are requesting that the supremacy clauses be placed in the acts to ensure that marriage remains defined between a man and a woman, and to do so expeditiously. If government is unwilling to stand strong for the society of Bermuda, then the voting population of Bermuda and their elective representatives must be free to deliberate and vote about marriage policy through a referendum and not unelected judges. Because the redefinition of marriage results in reordering society, restructuring the family unit, and radical cultural change, such as changes in education, changes in gender, etc. And it's for this reason that a few in government nor the courts should decide for the many. The European Court of Human Rights, in discussing the role of the judiciary when considering same-sex marriage in Europe, has stated, which the United Kingdom is a member of, which we fall under, they have stated, and I quote, "As matters stand, the question whether or not to allow same-sex marriage is left to the regulation by the national law of the contracting state," which means the countries, the individual countries. In connection, the court observes that marriage has deep-rooted social and cultural connotations which may differ largely from one society to another. The court reiterates, and I repeat, the court reiterates that it must not rush to substitute its own judgment in place of that of national authorities who are best placed to assess and respond to the needs of society. So if we want to be consistent with the European Court of Human Rights, we have to therefore stop making legislation in the courts pertaining to this issue, rather let the people decide about what they want for marriage in Bermuda. We respectfully request that further ruling be held, be stopped, to allow the government and the people of Bermuda to decide what type of Bermuda we want for our children and families, because redefining marriage reorders society. This includes changes in counseling agencies, in education, in the family unit, and the radical changes in society. At this time, Bishop Jones is going to come and encourage all of Bermuda to attend a public demonstration that will take place on Tuesday at Cabinet Grounds. Bishop Jones.
We would like the public that is for marriage to remain between a man and a woman to come out to a peaceful demonstration, and we emphasize peaceful demonstration, on Cabinet House grounds next week, Tuesday, February the 9th at 12 p.m. We are asking for all to attend who signed the petition, those who are for traditional marriage, people of faith, and those who are not of faith, but believe in traditional marriage. Let's not be a people who only complain, but let your presence be known for this cause as we stand for our children and present and future grandchildren that need both a mother and a father. Everyone is uniting for this cause. Pastors and bishops standing here today, community leaders, faith and non-faith, and people of all backgrounds and races. All are strongly encouraged to come out and stand for marriage and family in Bermuda. All people, both young and old. Next Tuesday, February the 9th at 12 p.m.
We would like to invite all young adults, women, and single mothers who believe that our children deserve both a mother and a father to stand for what we know is best in our society.
And we would like to invite our young men, both married and single, those that are dreaming of starting a family, to stand for our most unprotected, our most impressionable, and our most precious people. Those are children in our society. We need to stand strong for what we know is best for them. So let's come out next week, Tuesday, 12 p.m., and let's make our stand at Cabinet.
I am standing with my wife for 45 years. We would like to reach out in particular to the Portuguese community in Bermuda. We need to stand together as one people from all sectors of society, all colors, all socioeconomic backgrounds for this most important cause. What type of Bermuda do we want? One that makes moms and dads optional? Or should we uphold what social science has proven is needed for a flourishing society, which is stronger families? The more families we have of moms and dads doing their jobs, the less government has to get involved in the social ills of society. We will now have a brief opening for questions.
We'd like to also add the importance of, we know that there is a judgment in place that's to be put in effect at the end of February, and our request is for the Chief Justice of Bermuda that's been appointed by the governor to please reconsider in regards to the judgments that are being made which transform the culture of our country. what's happening now is we're in a situation in which the tail is wagging the dog as it comes to legislation in Bermuda. And we think that it's best that the people decide what they want in regards to marriage, and then legislation should support what the people want as opposed to the other way around. So we respectfully ask of that, because really these judgments are impacting society, and the people have to first decide what they want. The government has to decide what they want. So we're respectfully asking that we know that the government is represented by the people, and we are pretty firmly we stand firm on the fact that we live in a country in which many would like traditional marriage to remain as is, simply because of the benefit that it has to our society. Any questions?
Did you not anticipate same-sex marriage to become law once the Human Rights Act was changed, where it made all people equal?
Yes. Some time ago, there was a statement that was put in, I know, by the pastors of Bermuda, about 80 of them, that basically said that their concern was twofold. One, that this will lead to the redefinition of marriage, and secondly, that any form of speaking in regards to traditional marriage would be labeled as hate speech. And we're seeing those that impact right now in Bermuda.
And one more question.
Sure.
What do you say to those same-sex couples that say that, and they have children, that they are, what's your response?
Sure. Everyone is free to love children and to raise children, but and the reality is that anyone can raise children and anyone can have children. However, every child has a biological mother and a father, every child. And so in that case, we have to look at what is the ideal and uphold the ideal. And the ideal, based on social evidence and that of social studies, is that children do best when their mother, biological mother and father, is involved in their lives. Yes.
Hi there. I was going to ask about that very statement that
Sure.
you made about children doing better. Do you have any studies that you could refer to that you've got that information from?
Absolutely. We have several studies that are actually online. If everyone can go to www.preservemarriage.bm, everything is cited. And we encourage people to read the snapshot that was placed in the Royal Gazette today. Everything that we document, everything has been documented and cited. So yes.
And you also mentioned that this group is from all sorts of backgrounds.
Sure.
Faith and non-faith.
Correct.
Are there any people present today that are of the non-faith community?
We have received emails of those of the non-faith community that have basically. Anybody here of non-faith? Yeah. Everyone has some form of faith in the behind us. But we have received emails from those that are of non-faith, those that are even atheists, who have come to us and said, listen, I am an atheist, but yet I believe in traditional marriage.
But there's none of those present today.
Doesn't seem to be. At least everyone here is holding to some type of faith. Yeah.
How many denominations are represented?
The total number of denominations that are represented here right now is quite a lot. The exact numbers, I can tell you that there are at least 80 pastors. Some are traveling, some unable to be here, but a great cross-section of almost every denomination is represented in regards to withholding to traditional marriage.
The Anglican Church here?
Is there anyone from the Anglican Church here? I know that the bishop is traveling, and he is fully supportive of preserved marriage.